Welcome back, Authentic Manhood Numero Trace, Winter 2025. It's good to be with you guys. I love to hear the conversations, community growing, friendships are growing, sharing your deepest, darkest secrets at the table. Gotta love it. Well, thanks for braving the amazing sunshine tonight to come join us. I was telling Kathy, who was setting up, I'm like, I don't think the weather is helping our cause tonight, because certainly some guys are like, you know what, I'm going to go grill in the backyard, or I'm going to 50 West with my wife, or I'm going to do something. So I think when it's darker and colder, we want to come here and eat wings and, bad food and be together. So thanks for being like overachievers and coming out, even though it's beautiful out. It's just good to be together. If you haven't scanned the QR code, it's always helpful to do that. You don't have to. Okay, it's America. Do whatever you want. But if you want to, you can. And this is interesting, right? Didn't know what to make of these. But I wanted to know what you guys, where you placed yourself on the chart here. So it looks like we kind of all are, the majority of us kind of know what we were made to do, man. And isn't that half the battle? You remember being like 18, 19, 20 and being like, what in the world am I supposed to do with my life? And you're like, I could be the president or a garbage man. Like anything's possible. So that's cool. Looks like for the majority of us, faith plays a role in our work at some level. And then the majority of us would say that work is fulfilling. Man, we're doing pretty good. Pretty good, boys. What's that? You guys have learned all the lessons you need, Jeff. Take the leftover chips, put them in your pocket, and head out. Well, we'll do a table time initially to get some sharing going, get the communication juices flowing. And if you're like me, sometimes you can be a little old and curmudgeon-y and a little grumpy. And I would say, I tend to probably be more of a half is glass empty kind of guy sometimes, which isn't always helpful way to make your way through life. So I want us to take 5 minutes, okay, around your table, and we have a timer, okay? So Dave Hitchcock, this is for you. This is the Dave Hitchcock Memorial Timer. Not memorial, honorary title. He's still with us. Because he's like, hey, moron, none of us can see your tiny little timer in the corner of the screen. He said it way nicer than that. But he did make a valid point that it'd be really easy to put up a huge timer. Okay, but what you're going to share around the table is this. We're going to get out of old curmudgeon-y land. I want you to share with your table one thing that was good this week. Okay, one thing in your life that was good, be it a relationship, a moment, whatever. I don't want to define it for you. So you got 5 minutes for that. The timer will be here. All right, timer's up. Our magic timer. Thank you, John. So table hosts, remember, when you're done, if you want to shine one of these in my face, then I'll know that you're done talking. It's hard to tell sometimes if we're just talking for fun or we're still conversing on the topic. But what was good this week? Let's see. Let's find the handsomest table. Is it this one? No, it's not this one. Here it is. You said it, Kyle. Okay, what was something good this week at your table? Somebody start us off here. All right, Bill, did you have a good thing? Okay, Bill, in the microphone.
So my family and I, we are opening up a bookstore on the west side of Cincinnati, hopefully to get it open this summer. Sweet. And yesterday we were just all there working together, painting, moving furniture around and all that, so that was a blast.
Nice. Very cool. What's the bookstore going to be called?
Snapdragon Books.
I'm talking into both microphones. Snapdragon Books. All right, that sounds cool. That's exciting. All right, let's see. We're going for the second most handsome table. Yeah, close. You're close. We're going to go to the young guys over here. All right, you young bucks over here. What was something good that happened at your table? Into the microphone, Max.
Okay. I'm in high school. I'm a senior in high school, and I ran at the indoor state meet on Saturday, and my 4x8 team placed 7th.
Dang. So, yeah. Congrats.
Thank you.
It's a long way to even ride a bike, much less run. So congratulations. All right, let's end here at this table. What was something good? Art, Scott, Spencer, anybody? What was a good thing that happened this week?
I got my tax return, got money back, And I just remembered my wife and I were working out, and I'm feeling better even though we both have cancer. And I got on the spinning bike, and I used to do it all the time, and I got up out of the saddle and was able to, pump out of the saddle. That was a big deal for me.
Dang, that's great, right? Yeah, man, good is relative, isn't it? I'm learning that as I age. Cool. I think for me, I had just a good, and you'll empathize if you ever had teen sons. Had a good car ride with my son this week where he just wanted to talk, and that's not always the case, because sometimes I get a whole lot of fine, good, whatevers. But on this particular car ride, I don't know what it was. The mojo was just flowing or something, and he just wanted to talk. And it was kind of a long car ride, so it was just good. As a dad, you're just like, this is great. I love this, every second of this. I was tempted to drive around the block and pretend like I was lost. I don't know where this place is, buddy. Let's just keep talking. This is amazing. So I think it helps us to look on the bright side of stuff as men. So it's fun to remind us of that. So this week, chapter 4 in Authentic Manhood is a little different. Okay, so it'll be a little bit of a different flow tonight, which I think is good. It'll mix things up. I think sometimes the same becomes white noise and a little monotonous. But this week we're going to look at the 10 essentials to help you live out a biblical blueprint. Okay, so your life's going to change tonight, right? Because every top 10 list is just worth its weight in gold, isn't it? So it'll be interesting tonight, and you'll see that as we go along. But we'll be on page 58. And to start, when a man embraces these 10 essentials, it will provide him with more opportunity, broader influence, and greater success in his work. So, AKA, all of those things that are underlined here, aren't these all good things that we want in our work, in our lives, whether we're in high school as max and we're running 4x700, 4 by a lot, or we're retired, don't we want more opportunity, broader influence, and greater success? And I call that the AKA, man, that is what creating and cultivating. We want to do that. Well, tonight, hopefully, these 10 ideas will help us in that endeavor, okay? Last week, if you remember, who remembers the name of the guy we talked about last week? We did a case study on a guy from the Bible. Can anybody remember the name of him? Nehemiah, right? We looked at one guy, and what did Nehemiah rebuild? A wall, right? So we looked at a case study of one guy and how that might help us think about work, life, calling, vocation. Well, tonight we're going to look at 4 case studies of 4 of you guys, okay? So as I was talking to John this week, I was like, Kirby, we have our heart-to-hearts, our desks are across from each other, so we got a lot of connecting time while he's trying to do work. And I'm like, hey, John, hey, John, and I'm like, help me figure this out, because this week's chapter felt kind of like it could be boring and dry because it's just a top 10 list, and I'm like, John, it feels like I'm going to tell the guys, hey, guys, do your best and over-deliver at work, and let's read a Bible verse about that. And then we would go to the next one, and John, sage and wise and handsome as he is, he was like, hey, why don't you think of some guys in our group that maybe are rock stars at a few of these, and then a couple of these we could do some little micro interviews where we kind of pull them up and ask them some things. So we're going to be doing that tonight, which I think will be fun. You'll get to hear from 4 different guys, and all of these guys are kind of different ages, stages of life. All of them are very unwilling participants. So know that none of these guys were like, hey, Ryan, can I tell my story? None of these guys love this idea of talking about this tonight, because they're like, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. Who am I? I'm really a moron. And I'm like, I know you really well. So none of these guys were loving the idea of doing this, but I sold them in the idea of stories are powerful. Right, and we can read a one-liner about do your best at work, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I know that, thanks. Or we can hear a story about it, and hopefully it will stick with us. Stories are like the handles that help us lift heavy things. So that's tonight. We're gonna be exploring hopefully 10 essentials. We may not get to all 10. Honestly, we're gonna take them out of order, because I want to make sure I get to the ones that I have guys to interview on. And then if we have the other ones at the end, we'll get to them. But we'll see, okay? And what I want you to be thinking tonight is which one is for you. So whether we get to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this stool's bothering me. However many we get to, I bet you there's one of them in there for each of us, right? One of these probably relates to something going on in your life right now, at work, at home, you name it, okay? So that's where we're heading. That's the journey tonight, the first one. And if you like filling in blanks, tonight's another one of your nights, all right? Fill away. The first one is this: authentic men are motivated by the gospel, okay? And this is going to be two big concepts I want to unpack first together. And the first is motivated, right? Like this idea of like, as you think of work and life, like we're all motivated by something, right? Like you don't just magically roll out of bed with nothing driving you to do that, right? Like what are some of the things that, think about maybe earlier in your career, what are some of the things that might have motivated you in your job, you know, in those early 20s? I saw money signs, right? You're like, money, yeah, money. I remember a college roommate, he told me his first briefcase for work, the code to get into it was like 1 with 5 zeros after it. That was the passcode. And I was like, why'd you pick that? He's like, because I wanted to make my first $100,000 within a year. You know, like that was his motivation. Any other motivations you think of as you're maybe younger in your career? Promotion, right? You want to work your way up the ladder. Anything else? One more. Status, right? You remember what it felt like to buy your first car? You know, and you're like, man, that feels pretty good. You know, you go and you buy that first car. Well, it's this idea of motivation, and it matters, right? The what of the motivation matters greatly, and they vary, right? Like think about how motivated you are when you're hungry, right? Like any of you guys get super grumpy when you're hungry? Yeah, right? Like it's like the Snickers commercial all over again. When I first wake up, you know, the very first thing I do, okay, I get out of my bed, I go downstairs, I make a cup of coffee, and I get a protein bar, and I start eating it immediately, okay? Like literally like 30 seconds after like I get that in my hand, like it's going in my mouth. I'm just motivated by hunger. And there's some good motivations, and there's some bad ones. So a good example of like a short-term motivator is fear, right? Like imagine you're driving down the highway, okay? We've all been there. You're behind the wheel, you're cruising down 75, and you're going about 84 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone, right? The police officers are like, what are you doing? Right? And you see the police officer, and he's a half a mile up, and you see him in time that like, you hit your brakes and you're going the speed limit when you pass him. You're like, I'm not doing anything, officer. It's cool, you know? And for a little bit, the fear of that man or that woman motivates you, doesn't it? For a little bit, a couple miles, you're like, hey, I'm gonna take it easy. I'm in no hurry, really. You know, but pretty quickly, my foot just starts going down again, you know, and that fear motivation, it doesn't last very long. And another one that doesn't last very long a lot of times is guilt, right? Shame. There's a lot of motivations that are temporary in nature. But there's some that are more long-standing. And that's what we're going to look at here with this idea of being motivated by the gospel, okay? That what motivates us matters. And love is a huge motivator that's long-term. But what is the gospel? Okay, and I want to unpack this a little bit here because a lot of times our hope for this group is that this group is open to like guys of all stages on their faith journey, right? Like guys that are like, you know what? I don't even know if I believe in God, Jesus, the Bible, any of this, Ryan. All the way to guys that are like, I've been a Christian since before I was born, right? Like I met Jesus in the womb, you know, Billy Graham, like it was crazy. Like guys all along the spectrum, I hope you're sitting here. So I think I want to pause and unpack what this word means, right? Because that's the first one. We should be motivated by this. Well, what the heck is it? When I think of gospel, I think of like gospel music, right? I think of like a big choir in robes, and they're like clapping their hands and singing, right? And you're like, okay, Ryan, I should be motivated by big, loud singing and swaying choirs. Woo! Not so much, okay? And if you've been a follower of Jesus for any time, you probably know that actually what this word means is good news. That gospel is actually just a one-word way of saying two words, that it's good news. Okay, and I'm going to need 3 volunteers. Anybody want to be super brave? Aaron, come up here. Okay, the first man gets to be God. Okay, so Aaron, you come up here. Give Aaron a hand. Yeah, Aaron, thank you. Yeah, buddy.
You guys better give me a hand.
All right, so Aaron is God the Father. Okay, the Godfather. He's the big dog. Okay, I'm going to need 2 more guys. All right. Come on up here, Max. All right, Max. Max, we're going to let you be Jesus. Okay, so let's go. So, Max, you just hang over here in this chair with God the Father for a second. All right. Now I'm going to need 1 more person, okay? Come on, it's not hard. I'll let you take all the chips home that are in that basket back there. What's that? I don't think he did that. I think Brian would arrest me or pepper spray me if I did that. Like, what are you talking about? Shh. 1 more guy who's going to, come on. Yeah, Matt. Thanks, Matt. Other Matt, not you. This Matt was looking at me like, what the heck? I did not volunteer for that. This Matt. Not Matt Meyer. There we go. All right, well, Matt, bad news is you're mankind. Okay, so I hate to break it to you. Okay, so here's the gospel. So I put a verse up there, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. And you're like, well, what does that mean? That sounds fancy, sing-songy, sounds important-ish, right? Well, it is. Okay, so here's how life started. So God the Father, okay, with his huge muscles, and Adam, mankind, Eve, they were in this great relationship. Shake hands, boys, right? There was this back and forth relationship between a creator and created, father and son, And then something happened, right, in the garden in particular, where as men, mankind, Eve and Adam, you read the story, they're kind of standing right next to each other. Mankind kind of said to God, thanks, but no thanks, and kind of flipped him the 1-finger salute, right? Like, I think I've got life figured out on my own. Appreciate all the advice, but I'm going to kind of do life on my own. Well, this is a great visual for the word sin. Okay, we hear sin, that's kind of a packed word too. It's kind of loaded. You're like, what does that even mean? I shouldn't smoke cigarettes, and what does that even mean? Well, this is sin. It's the idea of telling God, like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I'm going to do stuff on my own. I got this figured out. I'm pretty sharp, right? I'm pretty sharp. They asked me to speak at Authentic Manhood. Must not just be the only idiot who will do it. Who knows? Maybe that's it. Well, no, this is sin. And what it causes is a separation between God and mankind, right? And that's kind of the condition that Jesus steps into, okay? So when Jesus, he was there anyway from the beginning, come here, Jesus. What Jesus does through his death is he bridges the gap, okay? So now when we decide like, hey, we want to sort of fix this problem because there's nothing that Matt could do to get back on his own. It was too far of a gap to cover. He turns and there's Jesus. And he's like, hey, I've covered the gap for you, right? Like I have paid the price to fill the gap, the void between God and mankind, right? And that's a good, very basic, but visual image for the gospel. All right, give him a big hand. Good job, boys. Appreciate your help. You guys are terrific. So number one is telling us to be motivated by the gospel. And it really could be a new way of thinking, right? We talked about that first week of like how we think matters. And could it be a different way to think if you're motivated in your work, not just by the need for money, not just by the need to have a roof over your head or prestige or power, but could it be a totally different way to look at it if you're motivated by loving gratitude, right? That you're like, hey, God, thanks so much for what you did, that you fixed this gulf between me and God through Jesus. What if that was the motivation? Well, that's number one there on page 58. Like that's where it's saying the starting point. Romans 12:2 says it this way. It says, so brothers and sisters, since God has shown us great mercy, so God has shown us great mercy, that's the gospel, that's the good news. I beg you to offer your lives as living sacrifice to him. Do not be shaped by this world. Instead, be changed with a new way of thinking. Right? That's the starting point of what we're going to talk about tonight, is being motivated by this loving gratitude. God, you did so much for me. You forgave me when I didn't deserve it. You brought me back to you when I couldn't come back to you on my own. Well, that's a pretty strong motivation, right? Love and gratitude are long-standing motivations. Fear, shame, guilt, those are short-standing motivations. And some people experience those in their faith. Well, I think what's motivated me mostly, that's not a word, is it? It might be a word, I don't know. What's motivated me the most has been loving gratitude for what God has done. All right, so that's number one. Number two, page 58. Do your best and over-deliver in your work. Many men settle for doing just good enough in their jobs. I bet we can all think of a job we had where we just, probably when we were younger, where it was a good enough job, right? Have you ever had a good enough job? Where you're like, this is good enough, right? Like, good enough is the motto of every 15-year-old boy on earth, right? Here's my son, okay? I asked my son, I'm like, hey, when you use the last bit of the toilet paper in the bathroom, okay, here's all I need you to do. This is going to really push you, Jack, okay? I mean, trust me, you can do it, though. We'll watch Rocky. We'll get really psyched. We'll get you there. When you use that last piece of toilet paper, here's what I want you to do. There's going to be a brown roll on there, and it's going to be empty. And all you have to do is you want to take it off of there, and there's a little wastebasket to your left. Once you take that off, put it in the wastebasket, and then the fresh toilet paper behind you, which mom and dad stacked there, by the way, all you got to do is take that, and I want you to put it on the roll. Okay, right? Pretty simple, easy instructions, right, Doug? Right? Like I could train my golden retriever to do this. Here's what I find. Like literally, and he's like, what? I did what you told me to. I gotta put the roll on there. Like, what's the problem? You know, and I'm like, dude, you literally, all you had to do is take it. All you had to do is put it in there. Is that so hard? Right? I know, when that was his defense, Bobby, okay? But I think there's a 15-year-old inside all of us that there's times where maybe we just do good enough. Like, yeah, it's good enough. Well, what would it be like to do your best and over-deliver in your work? And I want to explore that a little more, so I'm going to call up a friend of mine, Alex Bowman. Come on up here, Alex. Yeah, Alex. Here, catch. No, I'm just kidding. The sound guy is super scary here, so I would never do that. All right, Alex, grab a seat.
Oh, we
got stools.
I get the throne of honor.
We're like big time here. I'm going to need a drink of my Diet Coke. Getting a little parched. Okay.
He's feeling up
So
on
Alex,
Diet
tell
Coke.
our friends, so tonight will be a night where some of the cat will come out of the bag a little bit, maybe with what some of us do for a living, and that's okay. We're all getting to know each other, and it's cool, you know. So Alex, what do you do? How are you and I connected? Tell these guys what you do for a living.
Well, one, Ryan is my boss.
Woo! Best boss ever, right?
Actually, yeah, not many people can say they watch their boss flip the bird in front of a room of like 70 men, so.
Hey, you know,
But
do what you have to.
I am the middle school pastor here at Horizon, so I have the 5th to 8th graders, and I've been here for almost 3 years at this point.
Awesome, yeah. Okay, yeah, there you go. No applause needed. You know, we pay him handsomely with pancakes and Capri Suns.
A lot of food.
Yeah, just kidding. He's got a parking spot. You know, we let him
Well, it doesn't have my name on it, but.
Yeah, someday, it could. If you were
Yeah.
motivated enough, Alex, it would.
Let's go!
Challenge accepted. Yeah, we'll come back to that. You're better than all that stuff.
I have my name up there.
So here's what you need to know about Alex. Okay, I've been doing this student ministry thing for quite a while. So I'm 48, and I started leading Young Life when I was 18. So I got about 30 years in the biz here. A good 25-ish of them paid. And a lot of times what happens in middle school ministry is you have somebody doing middle school ministry that either A, is like trying to work their way up, where they're like, yeah, I want to be a high school pastor someday, or I want to be a real pastor someday. So middle school is kind of like a stepping stone. Or you get somebody on the way down, right? They were a high school pastor or a head pastor, and now they're like, they've struggled, you know? So it's kind of like what I've heard about maybe AAA baseball, right? Like really the studs are at AA, you know, like that's where the AAA is kind of that in between where they're passing both ways. But what we have in Alex here at Horizon that you guys maybe don't know is we have somebody that like actually feels amazingly called to middle school students. And what we've seen in the last 3 years is that our middle school ministry is basically doubled. Okay, like how many middle school students were here today?
We had 85 this morning.
Okay, and that was kind of an off night, but we had, or an off morning because of the time change, but we had 85 middle school kids here. But what I see with Alex is I see somebody who's like amazingly does the best in whatever that said. What does it say on your page there? Does the best, goes above and beyond. Yeah, so Alex, question number 1 for you. We need to get into this. Of all the things you can do in the world, so Alex's sister, get this, what does your sister do for a living, Alex?
My sister's a brain surgeon.
Can you imagine the pressure of that? Okay, so sister's a brain surgeon. The bar is pretty low already in his family, right? Why in the world would you do middle school ministry when you could do anything in the world? Alex has a degree. He used to work at Children's. He could do other stuff, okay? Like we didn't find him on like a park bench somewhere and offer him a job. Why do you do this?
Well, I was unemployed when you found me, but I wasn't on a park bench yet.
Yeah. You're not helping me here, Alex. Come on.
So, very long story short of my life, I explored so many different avenues and routes. At one point, I wanted to be an aerospace engineer, which my parents thought were cool. We'll have a brain surgeon and a rocket scientist. Like, I mean, you can't get better than that. But then I was like, nah, I want to go into the Army instead. So I started going down that road for a while. But along the way, I was volunteering with a bunch of just different ages of kids along the way, ever since I was like 16 years old. And it got to a point with my program that I was in at UC where it was going to become a year-round engineering program, and I wasn't going to be able to volunteer with kids anymore. And I realized in that moment that, you know, it was something that I couldn't give up. It wasn't just like a side hobby or something I was doing for fun. It was what God was calling me to do. And why middle school specifically? Over the, 14 years since I was 16, I've worked with every age from kindergarten to 18, and the little kids are awesome because they just have raw, crazy fun. The older kids are awesome because they have like serious, deep life conversations. Middle school is awesome because they have both. And that's one of the huge things that I love about middle school is you get both the crazy fun, the serious conversations, and I get to walk with them through that like weird transition of hormones and starting puberty and going through life changes and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Don't you all want to be a middle school pastor? You're like, that sounds amazing, right? Yeah, kids don't know they should wear deodorant yet or brush their teeth. It's the best time of life. But what I've seen in Alex is not only has our stuff doubled, but when you walk into his spaces, what you see is what I see. What you see are the results of what I see. So Alex, I think, is in the building more than anyone else on our team. I would guesstimate that he's here all the time, that he's constantly working on hanging out with middle school kids. I mean, let that sink in. Like in the 30 years I've done this, most of the middle school people I know that have done this in the past literally like planned it on the way there, right? They're like, I'm hanging out with the 12-year-olds. Like we'll play tag and there's a bag of marshmallows in the cabinet. Like, right? Like, and that's kind of been what I've observed in most people. But with Alex, like he goes above and beyond. And here's what I would, the next question I want to ask you. It's a long question, apparently. In a role where some folks will be tempted to wing it because they're just middle school kids, why do you put in so many hours planning? And all this is observable. This is what I see him doing as his boss, okay? He's not my boss, so I'm not sucking up to anybody. Planning, practicing, prepping spaces, going over the data. He like goes over spreadsheets about attendance from year to year, okay? Evaluating, reevaluating, etc. Why do you do that?
So, as I was thinking about how to really answer this in a way that's we're not going to be here for 3 hours.
Thank you.
There's kind of like 3 different things that I'm going to hit on real quickly. One is like me personally, God has blessed me with this really weird kind of dual dynamic thing that works really well in this role of like, in the moment when I'm running an event, I have like the confidence that, you know, I'm the best middle school pastor in the entire country. Like no one compares to me. But then during the week, when I'm preparing and prepping, I have the humility to be like, you know what? No, I'm just Alex. I'm just an average guy trying to figure this out. So like, I have to do all of this stuff, to make it good. Then the next part of it is the middle schoolers themselves. As Ryan said, a lot of people just kind of look over middle schoolers. They don't really give them much thought, and they're just like, you know what, we'll wing it when we get there. We'll throw them in the dustiest corner in the building. We'll put them in like the rattiest space. And I really think with the transition period they're in, and I mean, just because they're human, they deserve a space where every detail has looked over, somewhere they can go and they know that they've been thought of in every detail, down to like the number of Nintendo Switch controllers that we have and the food we have and all that sort of stuff. So it's just, I mean, they deserve that sort of respect. And then the third point is, like, that's what God's called me to do. I fully believe with every fiber of my being, God created me and all the things I went through in my past, the different routes to go down, to be a middle school pastor. And so it's honoring God with what I'm doing. If I were coming up here, like, just giving it 10% effort, that's basically saying God deserves 10% of my effort, and he deserves fully 100% of the effort. So that's kind of real quick points on kind of the 3 reasons that I could spend probably 3 hours talking about.
Nice.
Gives you guys a general idea.
Nice, yeah. So, and I know I could have picked 20 different guys out here who do the same thing in your field, right? Like I know some of you, and you're amazingly hard workers and go over the top at all you do. But I want to just give you a real tangible example in our church that the middle school ministry is the fastest growing area in our church. Is driving a whole lot of the growth. Blame Alex for why you don't have a seat at 9:45, okay?
You're welcome.
Because it's part of what he's doing in there. So number 2, do your best and over-deliver in your work. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
Oh, there's no surprise?
No surprise. We got to keep the train moving. Sorry, we're skipping one. All right, that was your surprise. We wanted to go to that. Table time. All right. We could give you guys about 8-9 minutes. Any or all of these questions. So pick one. You might like one, John, and Matt might like another, or maybe you just do them all. But I'll throw up about, I'll go 8 minutes to start. And then table hosts, once you get done talking, hit your little buttons there. But toss these around. What greatest motivation in work right now? Has that motivation ever changed over time? What might be different if you consistently viewed your work as working for God? Go. Well, one thought here. So one of the verses that first one's based on, that idea of like working as if you're motivated by the good news of what God has done for you, comes out of Romans. It says, in all the work you're doing, work the best you can. Work as if you were doing it for the Lord. And what's interesting about this is I call this the great bad boss, bad job equalizer. Because sometimes you have a terrible boss, it can be hard to like work for them because like this guy's a moron or this woman's a moron. But when you look at it through the lens of, hey, I'm working for God, then it kind of can equalize that. Because you can work as hard as you can and do the very best you can, even in a bad situation, a bad job. It doesn't mean you stay there forever, right? But it does mean that you would interact, you'd act like you would if you're working for God. So that's pretty cool to think about. So I don't know, maybe one of those first ones is one for you. Maybe you got to think through your motivation, why you're working, what drives you. Maybe you got to think through, like, am I doing my very best? Am I going above and beyond? Because I am working for the God of the universe at a base level. The next one, we're going to jump around a little bit here in your list in your book. We're going to skip down to number 4, okay, because I want to hit our actual people. Number 4 is work well with others. An authentic man values we over me. That's your little fill in the blank. With his coworkers and employees, he has the heart of a servant leader. And if you remember last week, we talked about me-sized dreams, which are small dreams, and we-sized dreams, which are big dreams that have the ability to inspire and create change in the world. Well, we-sized dreams are what we're looking at here. And I want to introduce you, and we'll go a little quicker with this one because we got to speed it up. But if you don't know Matt Dixon's a good buddy of mine. He's a local business owner. He employs people. He's got a son in high school. I've got a son in high school, so we bro it out about baseball and football and all kinds of stuff. But I've always been impressed with Matt, and I've known him, I think, the 8 years I've been here, right? Just with the way he runs his business and he treats his employees. And what I see Matt leading is he leads we-sized dreams. And I'll let you tell a little bit of what you get to lead over there. Yeah, it's in here. Do you want it up now?
Yeah, put it.
Yeah, man, I got you.
So this was kind of my thought process when I first started my company back in 2007. This was unfortunately what you would probably see on my tombstone had I not, found a relationship with the Lord. And I kind of found that through an employee who I met here at Horizon. I started going here in 2011, and shortly thereafter, I ran into somebody who was looking for a job. His name was Sean. And Sean had just dropped out of college, and he gave me permission to tell this story, by the way. He had dropped out of college and was kind of struggling to find himself in my business. I have a landscaping and a lawn care company, so I do pretty much what any 12-year-old can do. But Sean was different. The way Sean went about his work, I really wasn't a Christ follower. I wasn't deep into my relationship with the Lord, and the way Sean went about his work was different. He was just kinder to other employees. He was kinder to customers. There was something special about Sean. And I started to kind of change the way I went about my business and how I treated my employees, and stopped looking at the bottom line as much, and started to care more about my people. And I found out and noticed that I was able to be, and we are able to be ministered through people who are under us. I mean, a lot, obviously. Sean and I cultivated a great relationship. He worked for me for about 4 years. And then he went on to fall in love and move to Georgia. And he asked me to be in his wedding. And I was actually one of the best men in his wedding. And then he went on to start his own ministry. So he started his own ministry, and I went down to support him when he worked for John Eldridge at Wild at Heart. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wild at Heart, but he went down to work for John, and he decided to start his own ministry doing kind of Wild at Heart boot camps. And so I went down to support Sean, but again, Sean ends up ministering to me, and I was the one that got fed. I thought I'm going down there to kind of help my buddy out and support him, but he ministered to me. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So I guess a question to think through, on this topic. And so, can you read what would have been on his tombstone? So he's alluding to the fact, right, that it would have been, not pretty, right? He came through proudly and anxiously for many, and much at the expense of who and what mattered most, right? Like that could probably be the epitaph of many of us in our careers, right? Be it our families sacrificed, our soul sacrificed, different things for sure. All right, so Matt, here's the question for you, okay? In an industry that has a seemingly never-ending amount of employee turnover, which is, again, me assuming, but I think that's what I understand about
100%.
Yeah. Why would you spend a good amount of time and energy in helping them grow personally and professionally? Like, who cares? Why not just...
I mean, it's the perspective is that what we're doing now, of course, matters eternally, right? We don't get to see the end. We don't get to see the end of what we did and what we said and how we treated others in terms of how God is glorified through that. But the idea is that if I have that more in mind, then I'm going to be a happier boss. So, and my employees and people around me are going to be happier.
Yeah. And I think of it like being a link in someone's chain. Do you know what I mean? That like, as you think back on your life, there's probably been a lot of links in the chain that were people. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it was a teacher, a coach, a parent, a friend, and sometimes it is a boss, and man, that's a huge, awesome responsibility. And I know we have a lot of business owners and leaders in this room. We have teachers and coaches and, all of the gamut, where you have people that you lead. And what just a great perspective, I think, here to think about is dream those we-size dreams, right? Like dream a dream for them. Be a part of their story. So Matt, tell us quickly, so you're going to start a once-a-month Hang Out for Men.
Yeah.
Give us the plug. You
Yeah,
got
so
30 seconds.
Who in here has read Wild at Heart?
Wild at Heart, great
Cool.
book.
Great book, awesome book. If you haven't read it, read it. One of the top 3 books, I think, for men, Christian men especially. But Wild at Heart, 3 years ago, started Fires. And Fires are just once a month gathering where guys hang out and just talk about guy stuff. And there's no posing. So literally, like, one of the rules on Wild at Heart, like on the card that we hand out at Fires, is it says, rule 3 is no bullshit allowed. So, yeah. It's just 2 hours, guys come around and just kind of talk about, what's going on in their lives. There's usually one topic, and you just kind of hang out for a couple hours and stuff. And that's growing, especially if you go on Wild at Heart app. You can look up different fires that are in your area and stuff. So I'm going to be hosting Fires starting in April.
Will there be actual fire?
There will be actual
Okay.
fire.
I mean, so there'll be actual fire, people. It'll be at your house?
Okay. It's going to be at the house.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you want to learn more about that, when it is, all of that, grab me or Matt. Be a great way to connect with other men on a monthly basis. So thanks, Matt.
Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. We're plugging along here, people. And here's the beauty of that idea of we-size dreams is it models what Jesus did. You think of Jesus the last night of his life. You find him doing a lot of stuff, but one of the things you find him doing is washing feet, which still just blows me away, that he's scrubbing the dirty feet of Judas, right before he betrays him. So that servant leadership's huge. And I skipped over the slide, but I know a lot of us have probably read this classic by Jim Collins, The Good to Great, and basically he goes through the levels of leadership, and a level 5 leader is like the epitome. These are like the men and women that are just crushing it in their industries. And the secret sauce of that he found, and this was a study of a lot of different corporations and companies in the world, was that the secret sauce of level 5 leaders was humility, and a lot of times played out through service. That they saw their role as serving the employees that they led. So this isn't just like spiritual Christian mumbo jumbo. Like, this is real, proven, stuff that will help you in your career that we're talking about. But okay, we're rolling along here. I got 2 more friends to introduce, so we gotta keep moving. We gotta keep the train chugging. Choo choo. Number 6, bring integrity to the workplace. Isn't that exciting? Don't you go home and journal about your integrity? There are multiple opportunities to daily to add to your reputation of integrity or to destroy it, right? And I love this quote by Will Rogers. It takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but you can lose it in a minute. And man, isn't that true? One word comes out of your mouth. I know a few guys that come to Horizon here. They're like, one word can sink your career, right? One decision, one action, one choice. That integrity matters. And then as I thought of this one, I thought of one guy in a story that I had heard him tell me about his career. And I begged him. I was like, come on, Raj, you got to do this. And he's like, I don't want to do it. I was like, please. Like, I will buy you lunch. I'll wash your car. I'm not going to wash your car. But I begged him. I was like, tell us this story because it's such a good example. And he's like, doesn't want to do it because he's humble. But I think it'll stick with you. So Roger Armbruster, come up here, Roger. Woo! Yeah. All right, so Roger, here's the question. There's your name in case you're wondering. I think I spelled it right. Hey, good? Okay. You got it. Tell us the story. Okay, so he's got just a classic story on integrity in the workplace.
Well, it was much more emotional back in the day, but not so much now. Throughout my career, I would say I was like 18 years in, working for a major consumer electronics company. That's with TVs, sound bars, headphones. You guys have all bought them before in your life. And I worked for this company somehow that owned the Motorola brand name, right? The license. And we went, they pulled all the salespeople in from all around the world.
You were a big dog, though. Like, tell them the real deal. You were like, yeah.
In the U.S., maybe.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit. Not
that's
very
a continent,
big. It's,
right?
as you said, the morons who are sitting up here talking, right?
He wasn't selling at the Radio Shack. That's just the point I'm making, okay?
So they brought us in, and they did this, and we weren't naive sales guys. We had a lot of divas at the table, a lot of big egos, And they brought us in, and this company owned us, and they said, hey, we want you to sit in these meetings, and we're going to talk about how we're going to drive our reviews and such in every single channel you drive. I headed up the drug channel of trade in the United States. And they went through it, and these Chinese companies came one after the other after the other. And after the first day, I'm like, what? I was like, what is going on here? So I'm listening. I'm looking at the guy from Mexico. I'm looking at Brazil. I'm like, are you guys getting this? And so I sat back again, called my wife, told her the whole thing. I'm like, what are you perceiving of this? And she's like, let's just pray about it, talk about it, wait till the second day. The second day came through, and they're telling us, and what they were doing was these companies were coming in. I don't want to disillusion you from like Amazon and all your web links, but they would come in, they would get your products, they would manipulate the reviews, they would ensure it was so black web just wrong. And I remember standing up in front of this whole table, and I said to every single one of these guys in there, and I said, guys, I go, every single relationship you're working on right now is at risk. I go, the people we've grown up with who were the product managers are now the buyers at Amazon, Walmart, Target, everywhere. One iota of this is going to destroy your career. Now imagine me saying that as I'm standing up, and the owner and everybody's looking, and I'm like, oh, it was you're gonna die if you do, you're gonna die if you don't, because your career's gonna be over. And literally, I think it was about October right then, and we went through the whole story. These guys, everyone just sat through, and I'm just like, okay. And then it was October, December 1, guess what? Done. They were like, we're going to go a different direction. Drug channel's really not our, our area of focus. And I knew it was coming, even though I had some phenomenal deals on the table, let go. And hindsight being 2020 was probably the best scenario that ever happened. Because then COVID came in, I switched career up. I'm now selling SaaS organizational software to the government, no less. But it's ethical, and it's a completely different type of sale. But what it taught me was, integrity, the willingness to be vulnerable, the humility to your customer. It goes so far, and you can become your true, authentic self. And that's what has just kind of given me a great pathway as my relationship with God has become better. And it's been slow, up and down. But the ethical aspect of it has always reigned true. And the company I'm with now has that cultural and that ethical aspect just fits like a puzzle piece.
Nice. Thanks. Great job. Woo. So how cool. I mean, that had to have been a terrifying decision to make, right? Could not have been fun to tell Kim in December, hey, I got fired, honey. Good thing we got kids going to college, and right? It wasn't, the timing probably wasn't great. Wouldn't imagine. But now, as you look in the rearview mirror, isn't it amazing that God caught you? And actually, that was a stepping stone. And back to my link in a chain analogy, that was a link in the chain to where you are now. And man, haven't there been times where you probably haven't made that choice of integrity and then you regretted it 6 months later, when you got caught in something or something blew up, even if it wasn't your fault, right? You didn't author that, but if you would have signed on it, whoo, yeah. Okay, well, maybe that's yours tonight. Maybe integrity might be something to think about with you. We got about 8 minutes. I want to introduce you to one more buddy here. Come on. We're not going to have time for that. All right. So number 9, pursue a job that you can enjoy, are good at, and that will adequately provide. And here's the thing in your book I wanted to highlight. It takes courage to pursue change and transition. Authentic men look for the right job fit. Okay, so that's number 9. I'll give you this. So DJ and I, fun backstory. So I coached football at Turpin from 2006 to 2008, I believe. And in 2006 would have been your senior year. Yeah, DJ was a running back on the Turpin football team, and we went to the Final Four of the whole state. Okay, it was a amazingly talented football team, and I was like the 12th assistant on the team, right? Like I carried like the head coach's, headphones or something. I don't know what I did, but I got to know DJ. And then fast forward 19 years, he's walking around the atrium at Horizon with his cute little family, and he's like, hey Ryan, and we connected again. So I used to coach DJ in football, but DJ's got a cool story of a career pivot that I think is, he and I have gotten a couple coffees and he's shared it with me. I was like, dude, that took a lot of courage. So when I came across this one, again, I didn't want to just read it to you. I wanted to give you a real story of a guy. So Deej, do you mind sharing a little bit? I would say first question is just catch us up. What did you start out doing professionally and what changed in the last year? Maybe that fits what you have there, maybe not, but go with what you have if it doesn't.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
I've been in the financial industry for about 12, 15 years. I started off after college actually just applying to U.S. Bank over Madeira as a teller, started off. Mind you, I went to school for 4 years for a college degree. Ended up with an associate's in science and a bachelor's in biology, but I didn't know what else to do, so I just figured throughout college I went to a few branches and it seemed like a good spot to maybe start off my career. So fast forward to that, started off as a teller, just worked your way up, just like any other role. Went to the banker route, learned a lot about finance. Shortly after that, went down to a company downtown, insurance company, Western Southern Financial, if anybody's heard of it. Did their whole insurance sale. You had to get licensed, all that. The company policy there was at the time, it was if you fail the test the first time, well, let me rewind. You have 2 chances to take the test. If you fail it, you get released. So that was kind of a big jump. So for me, I was a terrible test taker all throughout, when I was younger. It was a real struggle for me going through school. And so failed the test the first time, ended up passing it the second time. So that was a huge relief because at that time I was trying to get engaged with my high school sweetheart. So that was a big blessing. Another risk, and shortly after that, we all have that buddy, right, who's kind of in your ear. And I had a good friend of mine. He's always talking about unconventional routes, kind of getting outside the 9 to 5, kind of, giving me some books to read. So that friend I definitely cherish because it changed my mindset on, just thinking outside the box. And so when I was at Western Southern, he started talking about real estate and getting involved with that. So I didn't know too much about it, never really had mentors, kind of guided me. So did a lot of reading, like just read through books like a madman. And shortly after that, he ended up getting a property, and I was like, maybe I'll take this another leap while I'm still doing the 9 to 5 gig. End up getting my first property, and then we were like, this is pretty neat. Like maybe we'll continue going on with this. And so what we did, we just pounded through our 9 to 5s, and any capital that we had, we would shove to real estate, and just continued buying properties over the years. There was a lot of creative financing, finding investors, and just giving them returns better than they would get in the market. And it just seemed pretty, something that we just really liked about that. And then so as we continue on, we just continue to take that risk. And the route that we were able to do is just taking big risks like that. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of, telling the wife, like, this is going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. And so, but biggest thing is just backing to Jesus. Like, he had our back, and we didn't know how we were going to do it. We figured it out. And then, ended up getting a few more properties. So ended up going back to U.S. Bank, worked my way up there, compliance, and I was doing an analyst role for the U.S. Bank on their RTP system, which is, there's only maybe, it's a small group, but it does a lot, very demanding. Still wasn't thrilled of, where we were, where I was at. felt like there was more out there. We kept doing the business, found other investments to kind of get into, which panned out for us. And then as of April of last year, I stepped away from my corporate job, and now just have the investments, and seem to work out for us pretty well. So, lots of risk.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I love about, so the theme that I'm hearing kind of in the four folks that have shared tonight, if you think about it, is this theme of like trusting that God is going to come through even in the midst of unknown, that I feel this longing, right? We talked last week a lot about longing, right? That Nehemiah had a longing to rebuild the wall, so he took a chance and he talked to the king and said, hey, I want to go build this wall, and I challenge you with, what's the longing right now in your life? What's your wall? And not all of us, are called to like leave our jobs and do real estate. I mean, what I love about DJ's story is like me, he comes from really, kind of blue collar roots, like there was no trust fund to buy these properties. Like it was blood, sweat, and tears and creative stuff. He read a lot of books, as he said. But then he had these moments along the way where he'd take these risks, and he felt like God was giving him a little nudge. Like, hey, this is it. I'm with you. And, and again, if you've ever talked your wife into one of those, it's tough, right? And that just shows a lot about the way he loves his wife and his family. But maybe a good thing for you to think about is this last one, is pursuing a job that you can enjoy, that you're good at, and that would adequately, that's the word, provide. But it takes courage. So thanks, Deej. Yeah, appreciate it, buddy. Nice. Cool. Well, this is like one of those, if you ever remember the sitcoms from the 90s where there'd be like a special episode that was a little different. And you're like, I don't know if I like that very much, but it is interesting, So that was tonight, chapter 4 is a little different. But, I wanted to give you just a little different flavor than just me blabbing content. I wanted to give you some stories to connect to of men in the room that are just like you. And in all 4 of those cases, those men are saying, hey, my relationship with Jesus helped me in these moments, right? Moments of integrity, moments of caring for other people, moments of taking a chance in my career, right? So anyway, there's the other 6. I think we got through 5, right? We got through 5. That's not bad. It's like 50%, Steve. It's like an F. It's good. We got through 5 of the 10. Okay, the other 5 are good too. All right. There's good stuff in there. Your books are full of good stuff. So bathroom reading material, John. There's like articles and all kinds of stuff in there to peruse. But we'll be back on next week, and we'll be in chapter 5. And we'll be back to our normal format a little bit, and we'll have pretzels and beer cheese from 50 West. And then week 5, the week after, we'll finish with Mio's Pizza and beer again. Okay, let me do beer on the 1st and 5th Sundays, so just put that in there. But let me pray, and we'll be out of here. God, thank you that there's no top 10 list that can help us navigate life perfectly, but there is a God that can help us navigate life as best we can, that we're never going to do it perfectly. But I thank you that you catch us. Help us to hear your voice, to feel where you're directing us, perhaps, to feel the longing, to have the courage to follow you. Give these guys great weeks. Pray next week there'd be 10 things that they could say what was good about their week. We love you in your name. Amen.